Saw 3.
Hello everybody, my name is Mr. Hat, and today we're going to be going over the 2006 film Saw 3, directed by Darren Lynn Bowman, who also directed the second one. He's going to be directing the fourth one, and this one was also written by Leigh Whannell, who wrote the original one. Saw 3 is the first film with the bigger budget of $10 million, doubling the last one, and it's the first film to be released after the death of producer Greg Hoffman. Leigh Whannell and Darren Bowman, they didn't express any interest in making another film after the second one, but after Greg died, they decided to make another one in his honor. This is the more emotional one, and less people die in this one than the second one, but this one's definitely more violent and more torturous, and this is the start of the torture porn that the Saw series is known as. This one also has a lot more twists than the second one, and more revelations and some of that good old wordplay that I liked in the second one. It also starts to get real convoluted with this one, so let's take out our lobotomy tools and get drilling in this week's Horror Franchise Wednesday. Go over all the things I liked about it, shall we? First off, the opening. This is probably a better opening than the second one. It opens with Detective Matthews. Right after the second one, we get to see what he does, and it's brutal right off the bat. We see him just take that lid that Adam used in the first one that kills Zepp. He bangs his fucking foot over and over and over again and snaps it to get it out of the chain because he doesn't want to saw it off. He wants to be able to keep it afterwards. The sound design is it's disgusting. This is the one where we get to meet Detective Hoffman, and he just, when you look at him, you're like, man, how did I not see him being a red herring? Like, he just looks like shifty. You know, he just looks like there's something up his sleeve, and we get to find out in the fourth one that he is not who he said he is. He's pretty bad. We get the return of Detective Carey from the second one. She's like the one that was having the affair with Detective Matthews. And then she gets to go in her own little game. This one has a lot more elaborate games, like traps, than the second one. Before the official game in this movie starts, the movie just gives us a couple of traps just to please the audience, I guess. We get the one with all the hooks into the guy's skin. He's got to rip like 20 hooks off of his body. But then you see the one that's in his jaw, and you're like, there's no way he's going to get that. And then Detective Carey, she's in her trap, and she succeeds, sticking her hand in the acid jar to get the key to get rid of this device that's going to rip her ribs right out of her body. And she succeeds, but it's rigged against her because Amanda is totally cheating. She's not a good Jigsaw. You can tell this is the bigger budget film because it has more traps and they're more elaborate, more bloody. This is the first gory one of the franchise. I actually enjoy this one more. It's more emotional. This is the emotional one. Like, this is like Saw 3, the emotional one. We get to meet our contestant who's gonna be like the main one. There's two main people doing games in this one. It's not just one group of 2 people, or in the second one a group of 8 people with Detective Matthews trying to solve shit. This one, it follows 2 people doing their main game. We got Jeff and we got Lynn. And when we meet Lynn, she's on this bed with this guy who we assume is her husband, who doesn't want to be. They just don't want to look at each other, and he says, I want a divorce. And it's wordplay because that's a revelation at the end. I think I like these revelations more than the second one. This one has quite a few. We get to find out that Amanda was the one who threw the key in the tub with Adam in the first one. She just threw it in there. She wasn't supposed to do that, and it ended up fucking over Adam. And then she snuck in afterwards and strangled him after he was near starving to death. She's also the one that captured Adam too. So we get to learn all these new things, like who was really responsible for capturing people, and I like that. I like it. Amanda really gets to shine in this movie. Like, she was just not really noticeable in the second one. You didn't really care about her. She's just kind of in the background. She doesn't say much, and then she's the twist at the end. But in this one, she really gets to shine and have her moment. This is her movie. And it's also her game. That's another twist and revelation in this movie, is that John Kramer wasn't just messing with Lynn and having a game for her. He was actually speaking to Amanda the whole time. Like, no, this is your game. But Amanda is just crazy in this movie. She's cutting herself over and over and over again. She wants to believe in John Kramer's methods, that they work, but she just knows that they don't, so she just loses it. There's a little moment in this movie that I really appreciated. It was a smart character decision that I would have done, is where, and I don't know how they managed to pull this off, but Detective Carey sees her TV is a live feed of her. She sees herself on her television from her closet, the angle of the camera. And instead of just going to the closet, opening it, she just shoots at it a bunch of times. I'm like, that's smart. That's what I would have done. And then I would have ran out. Just get out. This movie not only has the most disgusting trap in it with the pig guts. We get this detective, the judge. He's a judge and he's in this, like, he's strapped to the floor, he can't get up, and all these pig guts and intestines are just fucking about to drown him. It's the most disgusting one. It was also the most difficult to shoot in this movie, apparently, but it has the best trap ever. Not only is it my favorite, but it's also Jigsaw's favorite too. It's the rack. We get this trap that's gonna twist this guy's arms and his legs, and you think he'd pass out from pain, but he doesn't, and then it twists his head all the way around. Apparently the original idea behind this trap was going to be like, it was going to fold somebody into like a box or something, so just completely like contort and bend somebody. That would have been interesting to see, but I guess they couldn't figure that out. And yes, I can't say it enough. This is the goriest, so that's definitely a plus. We get to see a lobotomy be done. Like, we get to see not only the scalp being pulled, we get to see the skull being drilled into, like a full-on lobotomy. We get to see like every single step of it, and it's done so realistically. We get to see this piece of skull removed, and not only is there just a brain there, but we also see that little thin layer over the brain. So it's even that much more realistic, because most horror movies, they just have the brain sitting there, no protective cover. This one does everything they can to make it realistic. Now this one, I said in the second one that I was going to say this for all of them, like all the characters suck, they all suck. That's not true for this one, really. Yes, Jeff, he's kind of an asshole. He's very vengeful. He wants to get revenge for his son's death years ago, and he just wants to find the man responsible and kill him. So all these people that he has to save, if he wants to, are responsible in some way for his son's death, and he kind of just like lets them all die. But there's these little moments where he starts to actually care and try to save them. So it makes his character a little bit likable, but still at the same time it's hard to like him. But Lynn and Jeff, they're way more likable than the 8 people we got in the second one. Lynn, she actually has some sort of arc. She actually like learns her lesson towards the end, but unfortunately she doesn't make it. She at least appreciates life a little bit more, but Jeff, he's the same asshole towards the end. He doesn't learn his lesson. He doesn't have an arc. He's the same guy. He's vengeful. He's gonna kill Jigsaw. And that's another positive right there. I really like how they just had the balls to kill their main guy off in the third one, because I think they thought that this was going to be the last one, but Darren directed another one. I think Leigh Whannell wrote it, maybe somebody else did, but if this was going to be the end for the franchise, it would have made sense if this was like the end. Like, it would have made sense. It would have been, case closed, it's over. But we got like 5 more, so no, that wasn't the case. Little positive too, this is the first Saw, and I think the only one with nudity in it. We got a naked girl, she's chained up, just butt-ass naked. You even see her bush, and then she's just like getting sprayed in this freezer with hot, cold-ass water. And I love how it's corny, just how quickly she just turns into ice. Like, one frame, she's still just cold, and then the next, she's like an icicle. And it's like, really? That fast? And like I said before, I really love how the whole twist revelation is that this game is really Amanda's. If you watch it a second time, you can really see that he was looking at her when he said, I want to play a game. And he's purposely doing these things throughout the whole movie, like testing her emotions. He says her emotions are her weakness, and he holds Lynn's hand to like test her, and he's just like looking at her like, yeah, I'm holding her hand, what are you gonna do? You're gonna pass my test? And then he says he loves Lynn, another thing that pisses off Amanda, testing her. But when he says that, he says it because he's hallucinating an image of his wife, so that works perfect for his game, for Amanda, if you know what I mean. And that's another thing, we get the introduction to Joe Tuck. That this movie just inserts an image of his wife. We don't know anything about her. It's like, who is she? I guess he has a wife now. This movie inserts just things really just randomly. It gets kind of convoluted, but then things get explained like 2-3 movies later on. Like when Amanda goes in the office and she finds this envelope and tape or something in there that John told her to go get, and when she gets it, that's what really like sets her off. And we don't get to find out like what that was until like 2 movies later and who actually placed it there. I find it quite ironic and poetic that Jigsaw dies with a saw. Very poetic. Alright, let's go over my negatives / nitpicks. First off, why the hell did they decide to hide Amanda's face when Carrie was about to get her ribs ripped open? They like blocked off her face, but it was clearly a woman's stomach, and we already know from the second movie that Amanda is the killer. Jigsaw, second Jigsaw 2.0. Why are they hiding her face? That's not a revelation. We already know it. Second, how the hell did, let's just say it was Amanda. How did Amanda drag Lynn out of her hospital with a whole full hospital going on? Patients, doctors everywhere. She just got drugged in the locker room and just dragged out. I want to see how they did that. I also want to point out that Lynn seems to be a little too calm. I heard behind the scenes that she was scared of this movie making it, but I don't see that shit in the film. She just looks very calm. She's like, John needs tools. She's like very calm for a woman who has a bunch of shotgun shells pointing at her face. And like I said, Jeff, he's an asshole. He only really tries to get keys after people are dead. Like, oh, she's dead. I guess I'll go try to get the key now. And then he like puts his face up against the pole, and he had like a second jacket on. He could have wrapped that jacket around his face so he could have got the key without fucking up his face. He's an idiot. Amanda claims that she built the shotgun collar. I call bullshit. Okay, we already established that you're just a druggie slash psychopath who hasn't done shit your entire life, and now you claim you're an engineer? Fuck off. I find it quite coincidental that Amanda bleeds out at the very end after listening to this 2-3 minute speech by John, how he's explaining how it was all her game, which I love, but in the real world, she would have just bled out within a minute, and he's like, oh shit, you didn't get to hear the rest of my story. Oh well. Once again, this movie has the green-yellow filter and the chaotic direct editing. I'm not a fan of the whole like 360 chaotic like flash frames. They call it flash frames. They got a lot of flash frames and whip pans in this movie. I'm not a fan of that style, but I understand why they used it. I'm just not a fan of it. Or the filter. This also has CGI in it. I don't think the first two had CGI in it. I'll have to go back or think back, whatever, but I don't think they did. This one has CGI in a couple of moments where bones are snapping. You get CGI bones poking out. I'm not a fan of CGI. Don't use CGI, alright? This is a Saw fucking franchise. What are we doing here? And talk about a terrible end credit song, like just heavy metal. It's like it does not match the emotional ride we just went on in goriness. It doesn't fit. What the hell is this end song? And the only thing else I can think of right now is that this movie takes place like within 6 months. I would say a little less than 6 months, maybe 4, after the second one. And Amanda's hair goes from like really short to just very long. The average person's hair goes about like, what, 6 inches a year? And her hair is just like, poof, bullshit. Alright, does she have extensions in? I know this is a weird nitpick, but how did her hair grow that fast? You know what I mean? But overall, I really did enjoy this movie way more than the second one. I was surprised. I always hear that 2 and 6 are the best. But I gotta say right now, this is probably my favorite Saw period right now. Until I see the other ones. But right now, number 3 is my favorite right now. So when it comes to Saw 3, I say that you definitely go out and buy it! Especially if you're a gore fan. This one's very gory, very smart, lots of twists and revelations, better characters than the second one, so yeah, go out and see it. Definitely worth adding to your collection of Saw movies. And my Mr. High Award is gonna go to the wreck, Timothy Young. He gets his head twisted all the way around, but not before his arms and legs. Even though there's CGI bones popping, I still enjoy seeing this one. This one's definitely one of the hardest ones to watch. And the Mr. Twig Award is going to go to Amanda, who just conveniently bleeds out after getting shot in the neck right as John's story wraps up. How convenient is that? I think she sure got shot in the face a bunch of times. And those are my thoughts on Saw 3. Have you seen this movie? What's your thoughts on it? Is it your favorite Saw sequel? People say 2 and 6. This one's my favorite. What's your favorite track from this movie? Mine's The Rack. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me tonight, and as always, you can support this video by clicking on this like button over here, and my channel by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds to see more, and until next time, auf Wiedersehen.